Turo is banning hosts left and right, and most of them don't even know why it is happening to them. And look, I'm gonna be straight with you. If you're building your entire business on someone else's platform, you don't have a business. You have permission, and that permission can get pulled at any time, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And this is not me being dramatic or anything like that. This is just how the world works. And I'm not speaking theory here whatsoever. I built a 7-figure car rental business doing over $150,000 per month. So in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what is getting Turo hosts banned in the first place and why that may be the best thing that's ever happened to you. And I'm being completely serious. I'm also gonna give you the private rental playbook that hosts are using to make way more money than they are currently making on Turo, and they don't need Turo's permission to do anything. They can do anything that they want and take back full control in their car rental business and build a business not on someone else's platform. So let's get into it. Most people think that one bad review is gonna get you banned off of the Turo platform, and that's just not it. Turo in general uses an internal scoring system that's a combination of your cancellation rates, cleanliness rates, maintenance rates, mix of bad reviews to no reviews, the amount of claims that you're inputting, and all different factors that determine the risk level of you remaining on the platform. And when we talk about risk level of being on the platform, I mean, are you actually profitable for Turo? One bad trip is not gonna kill you unless you make a serious mistake. But aside from the serious mistake, a pattern of a lot of smaller things that continue over time will definitely get you banned as well. The number one reason that Turo hosts are getting banned is for excessive or bad claims. Now, I've seen this firsthand from people that I've networked with over the last 8 years in the car rental business. And what tends to happen is if you're putting in too many claims on the Turo platform, Turo is basically an insurance company. They're self-insured. So if you're putting in too many claims, they're gonna see you as risk. And just like any other insurance company, they're going to kick you off their platform. Now, there's excessive claims, which can be trying to claim every little thing that shouldn't be claimed necessarily, especially if it's against Turo's guidelines, which is normal wear and tear. So things under a scratch or a dent under 3 inches, minor damages that you know you're not gonna get paid for, and you try to put claims in anyways. The next thing is gonna be putting in bad claims. Since Turo is self-insured, essentially a bad claim or lying about a claim would be something like insurance fraud. Now, it's very loose with Turo, but at the end of the day, if they feel like you're doing something fishy in regards to claims, they're gonna kick you off the platform. I have seen hosts with 15 cars, I've seen hosts with 30 cars get kicked off the platform for making too many excessive claims. Now, even if the claims are legit, putting in too many claims makes you a risky host on the Turo platform, and you are not profitable to Turo any longer, and they're going to kick you off. Just like an insurance company, if you put in too many claims with any insurance company, they are gonna kick you off their platform. It doesn't matter if the claims are legit, you're high risk and you're not profitable to that platform any longer. And when this happens, there's no warning, there's no appeals process, you're literally just gone off the platform. Now, the bad thing about this is that Turo picks your guests. You don't get to assess the risk of the people that you're renting to. So even if you're having a lot of damages come through based on a system that Turo chooses to screen their guests, you can get kicked off the platform because you're gonna be seen as a risky host for making too many excessive claims. When you're doing private car rentals, you have a lot more control over who's in your cars and if you need to make claims in the first place. The second reason you're gonna get banned off Turo is for trust and safety violations. Now, this can be a sneaky one because some people may not even realize that they're doing something wrong. Turo is a trust-based platform, so as soon as that trust gets compromised, you're going to get kicked off and banned. Again, no appeal, no warning, you're gone off the platform, and bye-bye goes your business. Now, this can happen from poor documentation when it comes to trips. This can be something as simple as not verifying a license correctly, and something you can completely miss that's super innocent, maybe on the surface. Someone presents a license, name matches, birth date matches, expiration date matches, but you forgot to look at the ID, and it says identification card, and it doesn't say driver's license. Guest steals the car, gets in an accident, claims not covered, you violated terms of service, you didn't follow their trust policy. Turo assume that you gave the car under false pretenses and you were okay with it. They're gonna kick you off the platform because now they are technically on the hook for a major claim, even though that claim is probably going to get denied, which is another big fatal mistake because you're gonna lose a lot of money if something like that happens to you. It can also come down to things like having poor documentation. So maybe there was damage from a few trips ago, you didn't claim it, you tried to pin the next guest, you're doing poor documentation. This kind of falls within the ban reason of number one, which is excessive claims. But at the end of the day, if you're just not doing proper documentation, Turo over time is going to see that pattern and they're not going to trust you and they're going to kick you off your platform. And you may not even realize it. And you're not even doing anything malicious at the time that this is happening. You're just like, I see damage. In your head, you didn't catch it from the previous guest or the previous 2 or 3 guests. You think the new guest did it. And because you're not following proper procedure of check-in and check-out, Turo is going to view that as a violation of terms of service and a violation of their trust. Another trust and safety reason, aside from the obvious, giving the keys to an unauthorized driver or knowing an unauthorized driver is going to be driving the car. Aside from those reasons, it can be something as simple as having too many reimbursement disputes with Turo and not having proof to back it up. If over time you're putting in a bunch of reimbursements and having billing disputes with Turo and there's a clear pattern, chances are you're going to get kicked off the platform because Turo might think that you are trying to screw them out of money that is not entitled to you. So you have to make sure you have the proper pre and post trip documentation and that you follow the right procedures when it comes to submitting this type of evidence. Other things when it comes to trust and safety violations is going to be things like communicating off of the Turo platform. This can get you in hot water. I recommend keeping, if you can, most of your communication within the Turo platform so there's proof of everything that you've said. This includes things that might fall into gray area. Gray area transactions are going to be things like charging for extra delivery outside of Turo fees, charging for extra services outside of Turo. Maybe the guest is like, oh, can I return the car 3 hours late and I'll just throw you 30, 40 bucks cash. If Turo gets any wind that you're doing any of these gray area transactions, you're going to be banned immediately with no warning. So I don't recommend violating any terms of service, and make sure that you know what qualifies as gray market transactions. Some of these things can seem very minor and can seem like not a big deal in the moment, but at the end of the day, if Turo gets wind that you're doing any of this stuff and violating their trust and their safety procedures, you're going to be kicked off the platform. No warning, no appeal. Again, bye-bye goes your business if you're not set up for private rentals. Turo doesn't care what you meant to do or what your intention is. Turo cares what you can actually prove and what you actually did. Oh, and by the way, if you have an existing car rental business and you're on Turo now and you want to pivot to the private side of the car rental industry, you can click that link in the first description. I help people one-on-one build out their car rental businesses anywhere from scratch or transitioning from Turo to private rentals. So be sure to click that first link in the description and book that one-on-one call with myself. The ban reason number 3 is going to be having your account flagged and having bad reviews. What's going to happen? Turo's review system is really screwed up. Basically, you need to have within a certain criteria of 5-star or above reviews, or you're literally going to get canceled off the platform. Your cars are going to get restricted and you're going to be bye-bye once again. What happens is the biggest caveat that I see within Turo and within hosts that they don't realize is that if you don't get a review on Turo, it's counted as a bad review. So Turo takes reviews as a whole percentage. So if you don't, let's say you have 10 trips and 7 of them are rated and 3 are unrated, your 5-star rating, if all the rest are 5 stars, is only going to be 70%. Over time, this is not going to satisfy Turo and you're going to be kicked off the platform. Now, when it comes to review metrics, other things that are going to warrant removal from the platform are going to be low ratings in subcategories such as cleanliness, maintenance, communication, convenience, things like that. So a guest could have a 5-star experience across the board, but if you consistently have a deficit in one of these areas, you're going to get kicked off the Turo platform over time. Cancellations, of course, if you have too many cancellations, and really Turo doesn't allow you to have many cancellations whatsoever. You could do 2 or 3 cancellations depending on your trip history, and you could be completely banned or kicked off the platform. So you have to know how to navigate cancellations. A lot of hosts will cancel trips that don't need a cancellation from your end. You can call Turo and have them cancel it for you for things that are out of your control. Again, individually, none of these may seem like a big deal, and we're all human at the end of the day. So if something happens once or twice within a category for every 20, 30 trips, that is okay. But if it becomes a repeat pattern, Turo's not going to be happy with you. So once your account is flagged for review, not only are you going to drop in the algorithm and your bookings are going to drop and the quality of your bookings are going to drop, eventually you will get kicked off the platform or restricted. And if you're building your whole business based on that, that is not a system that you want to rely on. So sometimes it's not always a major mistake that will get you, though it can. Usually it is a pattern of small mistakes over a longer period of time. And this is why relying on one platform creates so much unnecessary risk. Now, on the flip side, getting kicked off of Turo might be the actual best thing that's ever happened to your car rental business and you don't even know it. And I am dead serious when I say that. Because when it comes to Turo, there are a lot of things that you don't control. You don't control pricing. You don't control the customer relationship. You don't control the quality of the customer. You don't control how claims operate. You don't control things that Turo literally violates themselves. They violate their own terms of service all the time. I've had it happen firsthand. I have other videos of actual situations where I've documented this happening to me. Additionally, you're not building a brand. You're literally just inventory for another brand. So if Turo's brand reputation goes down, so do you. If Turo goes out of business, so do you. If Turo decides you're not fit for the platform, you're done. So now, the moment you've all been waiting for, this is the private car rental blueprint. Now, there are many ways that you can operate private car rentals. You can do economy cars, luxury cars, exotic cars, and the common misconception is that if you're doing luxury or exotic cars, or you want to make a lot of money on private car rentals, that you need to go out and buy a Lamborghini, and that's just completely not the case. There's a thing called consignment. Essentially, you're just a property manager for other people's vehicles. That is how 90% of exotic car rental companies around the country work. If you call any exotic car rental company in Miami, LA, Las Vegas, any major city, chances are the car that you're renting is owned by an individual that was essentially contracted by that exotic car rental company for property management. You can also do the same thing with lower end luxury or even economy cars. Now, of course, you can buy economy, luxury, and exotic cars, but for the sake of this blueprint and to make it very, very low capital intensive, the best route is to just manage other people's vehicles. And at this point, whether you're buying your own cars or managing other people's cars, you are just a risk management and logistics company. The car rental label is something that gets slapped on after the fact because, well, people are renting cars from you. Your real job when it comes to building your own private car rental business is lead generation, insurance and identity verifications, check-in and check-out procedures, customer relationships, maintenance logs, damage resolutions, revenue splits, and literally just managing everything from A to Z. If you want to grow fast, and you want to follow the property management side of the car rental business, the consignment model, think of it like Airbnb, but for cars. Essentially, this is what Turo has created, but you are the Turo. You're taking in other people's cars and you're renting them to consumers. The best part is, this may sound foreign to you, this business model has existed for 20 plus years, way before Turo. How do I know this? Because I used to work for a car rental company 8 years ago that did this exact same business model, and they've been in business for 25 years. Now, when you're building a car rental business, there are three ways that money flows in. The first is going to be you buy the cars and you subtract any ownership costs, and that is going to be your profit. The second way money comes in is revenue split with vehicle owners, which is having someone else's vehicle under management. Again, 90% of exotic car rental companies do this around the country. A lot of people think that this is unattainable, but literally the chances are, if you've ever seen an exotic rental company anywhere, they use this business model. The third way is going to be brokering from other car rental companies. You can do this with economy, luxury, and exotic cars. It's a lot more worth your time if you're doing luxury and exotic. Basically, what happens is, again, most companies around the US do this. If there is missing inventory, let's say you call X company and you want a Lamborghini Huracan, they don't have one in stock for the date that you want it. They will call another exotic car rental company they have a relationship with, and they will take the car from them and rent it to you through their own company. How does that work? That other company that they get the car from will give them the car at a wholesale price. So if they advertise a Lamborghini Huracan at $1,200 a day, the other company might give it to them for $800 a day because it's a wholesale relationship. They give them a lot of volume and a lot of business, and that rental company that brokered it for you to give it to you takes the difference. So they make $400 a day on that rental. That is just a quick example. And now I want to talk about something pretty big when it comes to the car rental space. A lot of people that you see on Instagram, TikTok, and social media, they flex these big numbers that they're bringing in monthly. They have $80,000 months, and you're like, wow, they're making so much money doing car rentals, but that is not the reality. The biggest piece you're missing when it comes to people flexing on social media is their operating costs. Do they have any fraud prevention? Are they doing insurance verifications? Do they have the right systems in place? Because in this business, expensive mistakes can happen quick and they add up fast. You can be out of business before you know it. To put this into context, when I was first running my exotic car rental business, we were having $30,000 months and we were having great profit margins. We started hitting 6-figure months. I literally didn't take home a paycheck for like 6 months and doing consistent 6 figures a month because my systems were completely broken. Now, I could have went online and flexed my numbers and people would have think I'm making all this money, and that's just not the case. Now, there was a lot of lessons that I learned in between when getting to that 6 figures a month. What we did was we scaled back. We fixed a lot of our systems because we had about 60 cars. We scaled back down to about half of that. We refined our systems. We increased our bottom line. We scaled back up to over $100,000, up to $150,000 a month. And we were operating between 30 to 35% profit margins. Getting the cars and getting the customers, though this may sound contradicting, is actually the easy part when it comes to this business. What kills operators is everything that comes next. First, you need to choose your business model. There are 4 ways to do this car rental business, just to keep it simple. Model 1 is going to be a fully owned and financed fleet by you, your business, and your business partners. You own the cars, you keep 100% of the revenue. The pros are full control, no drama, and if you're buying the cars correctly, you are more profitable per unit in the long term. Now, what are the cons when it comes to this business model? You need a lot of capital, good credit, sometimes one or the other and sometimes both. You're taking on 100% of the risk, and if there's any downtime on the vehicles, you are going to be taking the hit directly. This model is best for people with a lot of experience. They're capital heavy, they have really good credit, and they probably have good dealer relationships. Business model number 2 is going to be consignment. Consignment, again, is just like a property manager, but for vehicles. you manage other people's cars, and you split the revenue. How does this business model work? A vehicle owner either has an existing vehicle or they buy the car for you, they give it to you under contract, you manage everything, and you split the revenue. Ideally, you want to aim for a 50-50 split if possible. So if a car is going out for $1,000 a day, you take $500, the owner takes $500. What are the pros when it comes to this business model? You don't need any credit and you don't need any capital. You can scale extremely fast. You're limiting your risk exposure. You have limited asset liability, and it's extremely effective for testing new markets and testing new vehicles. Now, what are the cons when it comes to this business model? Well, you don't own the cars. Let's be real. Some vehicle owners, especially if you don't know how to structure your business correctly and set boundaries, can be very, very annoying to deal with. You're not building any equity in the assets, and you're relying on the owner to keep their end of the deal, meaning you're relying essentially on their financials and if they're doing everything they're supposed to do to keep the legality of the car within your business. Now, I will say the consignment model is essentially how I built 85 to 90% of my whole business. It's what got me up to 60 cars. It's what got me to doing $150,000 per month at around 30% profit margins. The third model is going to be the broker/wholesale model, and that is using other car rental companies' inventory with a markup. Again, like I explained earlier, car rental company gives your car rental company the car for $800 a day. You push it for $1,200 a day, you make $400 a day profit. The pros to this business model is you essentially have zero asset exposure, and you could start really, really fast. You could literally start doing that today. What are the cons to this business model? Well, availability issues can be a huge thing. It can look very unprofessional if not managed well, and you don't have a certain set of standards, how to create and build these relationships and how to find the right people to work with. Just because someone has an exotic car in their car rental company does not mean that you want to work with that company. And realistically, it is not a long-term backbone. It's a short-term fix. It is best used as supplement for overflow unless you're literally just trying to get started. Do not build your entire business on this for the long term. Model number 4 is going to be the hybrid, which is owning some cars, consigning some cars, and using brokers when you have overflow. In my opinion, this is where you want to be at the end because you don't want to limit yourself, and having everything in your business, all 3 of the other business models can be very, very beneficial because you can maximize your ability to grow. At my peak, I was operating on business model number 4. Yes, I did own some cars. I consigned most of them, and I would broker a lot, but being that we had the biggest fleet in the city of San Diego, a lot of people ended up brokering from us, which is also a benefit. The next thing in the private rental blueprint is going to be vehicle niche and market fit. Now, obviously, when it comes to the car rental business, you can rent all different types of cars. The first one is going to be economy cars. You can operate economy cars literally in any market around the country. It is very, very high demand. It is very consistent no matter where you are, but you're dealing with low margins and high volume. And what does high volume do? It brings you more stress and more operational costs. So it can kind of create a headache and operational exposure if you don't know how to build it correctly. This was potentially one of the biggest downfalls because we started in luxury and exotic cars. We had about 20 to 30 cars. We introduced 30 economy cars in the matter of a couple of months. And that is what really drove down our profit margins because it ramps up volume dramatically and it exposes all of the flaws in your standard operating procedures and finances. Now, at this stage, definitely I could operate economy cars and be very, very profitable at a large scale, but it took me a lot of lessons to learn this. The next category is going to be luxury cars such as G-Wagons, Range Rovers, Mercedes, BMWs, and so on. These have solid demand, a lot better margins than economy cars, and they are a great bridge if you ever want to get into exotic rentals. And then the one you've all been waiting for, maybe, maybe not, is exotic cars. Very, very high upside, but very, very high risk. The best part, in my opinion, about renting out exotic cars and using consignment model is that a lot of your clients are actually qualified to become investors that want to purchase vehicles for your fleet. And in my experience, I grew 80% of my fleet from former clients. And it's not just me. Literally, all of the operators that I work with that are in the exotic car space, this is exactly what happens to them as well. How do you figure out which cars are going to do well in your area? It's really not based on what you like. It's based on what people want. A great tool that you can use is called rentscout.io. It is essentially an extension plugin on your browser. You can use it on Turo and you can get a lot of market data from Turo. Now I know you're thinking, I'm not looking for cars for Turo, I'm looking cars for private rentals. What you have to understand is that Turo is in every single market and it is market driven data, even if you're entertaining private rentals. I will note, RentScout only shows host data. It does not show the fees that Turo adds on. So if Turo rents a car for $100 a day, a consumer might actually be paying $200 a day. So that's something to note when you're doing your market research based on rentscout.io, which could be a good thing for you because if a car does really, really well on RentScout, that means you can make probably 1.5 to 2 times the amount that you're actually seeing on that data if you're doing private rentals. Next thing, of course, is to study competitors in your area. What does their inventory look like and how much of the inventory do they carry? To keep it simple, because I can make a whole video on this, is if there's a high quantity of certain types of vehicles and they're listed at a high price compared to other markets, that means that that car is a very, very strong fit for that market. If there's no data in your area, you need to start with a loss leader. What that means is it's essentially a vehicle you're prepared to take a loss on, and that is why the consignment model is beautiful, because someone else may buy a vehicle for your fleet because they want tax advantages or they just want to have a cool vehicle and they don't care if the car makes money or not. But going back to the loss leader thing, you can go into a new market. Let's say you're getting into luxury and exotic cars. Instead of going and buying a Lamborghini Huracan for a specific market, you may want to start with something like a Corvette C8. The Corvette C8 does well. You can upgrade to a Porsche 911, an Audi R8, and then go on from there and keep leveling up until you see there's enough demand for these types of vehicles, and then you can multiply those. I've done this for myself. I've expanded to multiple cities, one of them being Scottsdale, the other one in Wilmington, North Carolina. What we did was we brought lower tier vehicles, like I just explained. What I just explained, I actually literally did in Wilmington, North Carolina. We brought a Corvette C8 out here. I recruited one as well as soon as I got out here. So we had two Corvette C8s. They did extremely well here on Turo alone. And we decided, okay, let's ship out our Audi R8 V10. So we did that, and that car did not perform as we had hoped. The mistake we almost made is we almost shipped one of our Lamborghini Huracans, because we had 3 of them at the time. We almost shipped one of them out here instead of the Audi R8. And good thing we tested the Audi R8 first, because it just was not a good fit for it to make sense to ship out a Lamborghini Huracan, which was one of our top producing vehicles in San Diego. Now, perhaps the most important part when it comes to your business is the legal setup, which is the foundation of your business. Most people skip this, or they do it impartial and they do it completely wrong. And without structure, one lawsuit is going to wipe you out. This is super easy. Go to the Secretary of State website, form your LLC. Depending on your state, it's anywhere from $100 to $500. Get an EIN, which is an employer identification number, through the irs.gov website. This is a free service, by the way. Here's a pro tip. If your LLC name is similar to any pre-existing LLC in the country that is the same name or a similar name, even if the company is inactive, that means there's an EIN tied to that former entity. All you have to do is call the IRS, let them know your LLC name. They're gonna look it up. They're gonna say, oh yeah, there's something similar already existing with an EIN, but it's no problem. They can create as many EINs as they need to, even if the entity names are exactly the same, as long as they're not in the same state and currently active. So basically what they're gonna have you do is they're gonna have to, you print the form, fill it out, fax it in, and you'll get your EIN in the mail. The only downside is it can take a couple of weeks to get that EIN in the mail. The reason I say that is if you create an LLC and this happens to you and you get rejected online, don't panic, just call them. Next, open up a business bank account, take your LLC certificate, take your EIN, go to a bank, and open up a business checking account. The reason I mention this is because you never want to commingle your funds. If you commingle your funds and you ever end up in a court of law, court is going to look at your business and your personal life as the same, because what's the difference? If you're using your personal credit card to buy things for the business and vice versa, and you're not doing the proper reimbursements when it comes to your accounting, because sure, maybe you go out and you forget your card and you have to pay it from your personal, then if you do something like that, you have to make sure you do the proper reimbursement processes, because again, if you get into a lawsuit, the court's going to say, well, how's there any difference between your personal life and the business? Because you're literally using them interchangeably. The reason I mention that is because if you do something like that and you get sued, they can do what's called piercing the corporate veil, meaning you set up an LLC to protect your personal assets. So if you screw up in your business, you get sued. The worst thing that can happen is you lose your business, but everything in your personal life is protected. If they pierce the corporate veil, not only will you lose your business, but they can go after your personal assets, your house, your cars, and anything that you own. So make sure, aside from finances, that everything is always operated under your LLC. That's going to be owner agreements, rental contracts, and any client communications. The next section, and apart from setting up correctly on your legal foundation, is going to be insurance. This is make or break for your business. This is where I see almost everyone struggle. All the questions on Facebook groups, all the questions that come to me in my DMs, in my comments, 90% of them are about insurance. And most people that join my program that I mentor one-on-one, they come to me with their biggest fear being insurance. The biggest myth is that people think they need to find this one golden egg policy that's going to cover everything. They just find this provider, they pay this premium, and they never have to worry about anything when it comes to the car rental business because it's insured. That is not how it works at all. The reality is it's going to be your operating procedures paired with insurance availability. And when it comes to insurance, there are many different ways that you can actually go about it, because you can easily find one of these policies that's a golden egg policy. GMI offers it, Prime Insurance offers it. There are other providers as well. But if you have sloppy operations, your claims are going to get denied. And if you do one too many claims, and usually that means really not many claims at all, you're going to be kicked off from that provider and you're going to be impossible to be reinsured in the future. You have what's called a loss run sheet. A loss run sheet is essentially your record for insurance companies. So the loss run sheet follows you anywhere. If you have a bad loss run sheet from one insurance company, chances are you're not going to get insured or you're going to have crazy high premiums from the next insurance company. Paired with the way you do insurance, another very, very important thing that is just important as how you set up insurance is going to be how do you verify your renters. You need to verify their identification, their driver's license, name, address, make sure everything is a match. You need to actually verify the insurance. You need to call the insurance company, Google the number. Don't trust what's on an insurance liability card. You want to make sure that you're calling the company directly, because if you get a fake insurance, and I've gotten fake insurances multiple times, you want to make sure you're calling the actual company. When you call and verify coverage, the reason you would do this is to make sure that, especially with high-end vehicles, there is usually no added insurance that they can purchase, especially if you're talking $200,000 plus in value. You need to use the renter's personal insurance. So when you're calling their personal insurance, you want to make sure that the policy is not brand new, because that's usually could be a sign of identity theft. You want to make sure that they've been on this policy for at least a little bit of time. You want to verify their coverage limits and their coverage types. You want to make sure it has comprehensive collision, property damage, bodily injury, uninsured motorists, things like that. And that you ask about any exclusions to make sure that the particular vehicle that they're renting is actually qualified. So the best thing to say is they're going to be renting a Lamborghini Huracan. Is this vehicle covered? And the last thing you want to ask the insurance agent is for an insurance binder on that specific policy so that you can see the breakdown. Why would you ask for the exclusions? These all come from my mistakes. This costed me $50,000. I had a Lamborghini Huracan get crashed by a renter. I called the insurance. I asked all the right questions except for what are your exclusions to the policy. It was a commercial policy. It had a Maybach on there, which is a very, very high-end vehicle, almost close to the vehicle value of the Lamborghini Huracan. But because it was a commercial policy, there were exclusions to it. So the representative told me that, well, this vehicle does not substitute for the business use that the Maybach was purchased for, and therefore we are not covering the claim. You also want to take security deposits as a risk filter. Yes, they can help you with over mileage and damage and all of that and help you retain some funds, but it is really just a risk filter because most people that have risky behavior or have malicious intent, they are not able to use a valid major credit card to put down a $1,000 to $2,000 deposit. Even if it's a lower amount for an economy vehicle, the fact that they have a valid credit card in their name that they can present with a matching ID says a lot, and it will decrease your risk by a dramatic amount. Now, when it comes to rental agreements, I know in the new age of AI, everyone just goes to ChatGPT, makes a rental agreement. This can get you burned very, very seriously. You need to make sure that you have certain criteria within your rental agreement. I've had operators that come and join my program and I review their rental agreements, and it is missing so much critical information that if they ever actually had a serious claim, it would get denied. And I've had people come to me with claims that have gotten denied due to their rental agreement. It's always best to have a real one revised by a lawyer, but nonetheless, your rental agreement needs to include the renter's name, address, phone number, their insurance provider, their policy number, the VIN of the vehicle that they're renting, the daily rate, sales tax, security deposit, the cost per mile over, mileage included, damage language, exclusions, and a thing called Graves Amendment. Now, how are you gonna get your first cars? You've got the foundation, you picked your business model, you're ready to go. How are you gonna get your first vehicles? The zero capital start that you can literally start doing today if you wanted to acquire vehicles on your fleet is going to be to choose the broker option. Call existing car rental companies in your area, not major ones like Hertz or Enterprise, but smaller boutique car rentals. Ask them if they broker their vehicles, get a wholesale price sheet, and start putting a markup on those cars and advertising them. The most critical part when it comes to broker relationships is never pass off the client directly to the broker. You should always keep communication directly with your client. That way they don't get poached by the broker, because if you don't have tight broker relationships, your clients will get poached. Because at the end of the day, like I've explained to you before, people that rent your cars are most likely to purchase vehicles for your fleet. So if you're passing off your clients, you're passing off that opportunity. Even if the broker wants to handle rental agreements, security deposits, or even payments, just make sure that you're the one that's doing all the communication back and forth with the client. And if you're in town and local, make sure that you're actually meeting the client in person. The next step is going to get consignment vehicles or co-hosting vehicles. You're targeting car owners who want passive income, who want to offset car payments, or some people literally just do it for tax advantages. A great place to find these, if you're going from a cold start, is Facebook groups. There's Turo hosts, Turo tips and tricks. There's Turo Talk, which by the way is the official Facebook group of Turo, so be careful what you say in there. There's other private car rental Facebook groups. You can join those, start networking in them. You'll be surprised at how you can actually find people on there that are willing to give you their cars. How do I know? Again, I have done it. The next thing is going to be the thing I've mentioned already multiple times, which is getting clients to purchase cars for your fleet. It comes up naturally in conversation. So just start getting your feet wet and just start getting clients under your belt. The third way, and this might sound cliche, is post on social media. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how you speak. I don't care how uncomfortable you are in front of the camera. Start putting out content. I've literally had people send me cars through my content. Most recently, for example, I was just posting videos about educating about car rentals, not even advertising that I do co-hosting really or anything like that actively. I had someone hit me up. They had 6 Ford F-150s. They wanted to send me all of them. I took 2 of them, started managing them, and the rest I'm actually dispersing to people in my program for them to co-host and manage. Now, these are not the only offers that I've gotten, and I've recruited other vehicles through social media. Another really creative way, once you sort of built a small system of investors that have purchased vehicles for your fleet, is to incentivize them to get other people to purchase vehicles for your fleet. I've done this successfully in the past where I offer a 10% incentive. So if Joe bought a Lamborghini Huracan and they recruit someone else that buys a Ferrari, I will give him 10% of ongoing revenue for that Ferrari for the lifetime that the car rents. So if that car is doing $10,000 a month, the person gets $1,000 a month just for literally referring them. I've done this successfully. I've had people bring me cars this way, 3 or 4 cars, to where they're making passive income, $2,000 to $3,000 a month on top of the cars that they've consigned in my fleet. When is it time to finance and buy your own vehicles? Well, if you start making too much money or you want to offset your W-2 and you need tax benefits, research tax code section 179 and also consult a CPA. But there are many great tax benefits to starting a rental fleet or purchasing vehicles for a rental fleet either way. Another great time is when you have really good business credit established, or if you can buy vehicles consistently below market value, because as soon as you purchase them, you're already in profit. What are some good sources for when you're purchasing vehicles? Of course, car dealerships. Aim for below invoice pricing or getting the cars at cost if possible. Existing Turo hosts, because a lot of them are trying to offload their fleet for a discount. You can go to Facebook Marketplace, family and friends, or if you have connections, get cars at auction. Now, after you've gotten vehicles on your fleet, how do you price these vehicles? You need a solid pricing strategy. The biggest variables that determine pricing are going to be things such as your market, vehicle daily operating costs, how much is that car costing you per mile to operate? So think of it in terms of maintenance, insurance, financing, competitor rates, seasonality, and demand signals. The best way to do this, and I've already mentioned it, is get the cost per mile on the car so that you know exactly what you need to charge to make a healthy profit margin. Pair that along with the pricing in your market. So for example, if you're renting out a Lamborghini Huracan, it's $1,000 a day and you give 100 miles, you're gonna make $10 a mile of revenue on that car. So if you know your exact cost per mile on the vehicle, including depreciation, you know exactly how much you're going to profit every single dollar that that car goes out and every single mile that is driven on that vehicle. And whatever you do not, I repeat, do not race to the bottom, which is essentially, oh no, why aren't my cars renting? And you lower your prices to where you're literally going negative. That is going to bring you the worst type of clientele, lower margins, much higher risk. Just remember, price communicates value of your product. And now there are also pricing levers that go beyond just the daily rate. These would include things like tiered security deposits based on the vehicle's value. You don't want to charge the same rate for different vehicles per se. So if you have a Volkswagen Jetta, you're charging $150 security deposit. You cannot charge that on a Lamborghini Huracan. Another pricing lever outside of the daily rate is going to be over mileage fees. Make sure that you disclose these kinds of fees upfront to the renter and price them correctly. I've made this mistake myself where I'm giving too many free miles, I'm not documenting mileage properly, or I'm charging too low for the daily rate, literally leaving tens of thousands of dollars of profit margin on the table. I've had months when I locked this process in where I literally made just as much profit from over mileage as I did from my daily rates. Other things are going to include things like refuel charges. What are you charging to refuel the car? Is it per gallon? Is it a flat convenience fee? What are you charging for deliveries? Are you doing free deliveries? Are you charging $100 to go as far as 50 miles? Or are you charging $500 to go 50 miles? Ideally, you want to tier your delivery fees based on distance. Also, are you going to have minimum rental durations? For example, if someone wants to book your Lamborghini for only 2 hours and they want a severely discounted rate with severely limited mileage, but they want it 2 hours smack middle on a Saturday, don't do that, because then if they book it on a Monday for this coming Saturday, now you blocked off Saturday and you're making maybe only a few $100s when someone might book the car from Friday to Monday. And then also, how are you stacking your long-term discounts? For example, you're not going to charge the same rate for one day as you are for 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, a month, or beyond. With those discounts, you're going to have a lower turn rate. These are usually higher quality clients, and it becomes predictable revenue. The next thing that's going to be super important when you're building your private car rental business is going to be your platforms and tech stacks. The first one and the obvious one is going to be Turo. Use Turo, but don't rely on it. Turo is good for building reviews. It's good for testing demand. It's good for getting your first bookings. It is not good for scaling long-term and building a private car rental business in the long term. Now, when it comes to Turo, you're gonna wanna do a lot of different settings that will increase the chances of your car being booked. You wanna be competitively priced. You wanna have discounts to favor Turo's algorithm. You wanna offer things like airport deliveries and other convenient locations that you can deliver your vehicles to. You wanna make sure that you have short trip buffers. You wanna have short notices when it comes to bookings, because all of these things are gonna feed Turo and they're gonna bump you up in the algorithm, making it much more likely that your vehicle gets booked. On top of that, you wanna make sure that you have a clean looking listing. So have some professional photos and get very good angles of the car. Also, pro tip, never run paid ads for your Turo business. All you're doing is running paid ads for Turo. I've seen countless people do this. All they have to do is click your listing for your advertisement and then just go search the area for other vehicles, because they're gonna find better and cheaper vehicles maybe. At that point, you're literally just giving free money to Turo. The next and most important thing, and this is for lead generation essentially, is your Google business profile. If you're running private car rentals, you need a Google business profile. It's gonna be the #1 source of lead generation for your business. Almost all of my cold leads came from Google business profile. You need to pair that with good SEO and make sure that you're ranking at the top. This is literally how you can start to dominate your market. When it comes to Google business profile, make sure you list as a car rental agency. You link your website, you add photos, and you start getting reviews on there. A good way to start getting reviews on there is obviously friends and family, but if you're on Turo, having your Turo customers leave a review on your Google business profile. Your reviews are very, very important. Make sure you stack them very aggressively. Following that, you need to make sure you have a good website and strong SEO, which, if you don't know, is search engine optimization. Make sure that you have good keywords on every page. When you think of keywords, think of how would you yourself find a car on Google. So if you're looking for a Ferrari for rent in Chicago, you would type in Ferrari rental Chicago. So using those types of keywords plastered all across your website as much as you can. Make sure that you have separate product pages for each vehicle and as many pages as possible across your website. Make sure you're utilizing and optimizing what's called meta data, and make sure you're constantly updating your SEO to fit the market trends within your area. Now, in my business, I never really used paid advertising. I maybe spent like $5,000 on Google ads, and I built a $1 million plus per year car rental company literally based off of Google business profile, social media, and word of mouth. Some other important things you're going to need when it comes to technology within your business is a really good booking software. This can be something like HQ Rental, Rent-Centric, Wheelbase. You can build your own on Go High Level. And if you know people like myself, we can plug you in to custom car rental softwares as well. You're going to want automated insurance verifications. A great one to use for this is called insureverify.ai. On there, they can do license and identity checks, insurance verification to make sure it meets the standards for the vehicles that you're renting, MVRs, which is a motor vehicle record, and you can also do things like purchase over-the-counter insurance. The next important pieces of technology that you're going to need for your car rental business are how do you track your vehicles? You can go simple, something as simple as an OBD tracker like Bouncy, or you can go more advanced if you want a hardwired tracker and you want to have kill switch, remote lock and unlock features. Those type of tracking systems are going to be Trackhawk, MoveTracks, Fleetbold. They are great tools for keeping your assets safe and knowing where they are at all times. You're also going to want CRM for client management when it comes to your business. So using platforms that, like I've already mentioned, such as Go High Level, or even simple spreadsheets to keep track of all your data, and doing things like building email lists and starting to set things for retention marketing. Now, how do you get customers? Well, you got to market, right? You're going to want to start with organic marketing and do paid once you have proof of concept. Car rentals are demand driven and not pattern interrupt driven. People aren't scrolling on Facebook or Instagram and they get an ad for a car rental and they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna go rent a car today. People usually already have plans, whether it's a birthday or whether they're traveling or they need to get from point A to B. So they are searching for car rentals rather than car rentals searching for them. So your job is to be visible for people when they're looking for the service that you provide. Entertain organic channels first. The first one, the easiest one, is Google and Google Business Profile, which I'd already talked about, but this is how I came fresh into the market in San Diego with exotic car rentals, and I beat the previous company I worked for, which had been in operation for over 20 years. We overtook them by a mile, and that was literally through optimizing our SEO and Google Business Profile. The next thing, the free An easy route that you can take is social media. Make sure you're posting on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, anywhere. It's free. There's no excuses. And it serves two purposes. It's going to get you renters and it's going to get you consignment vehicles. Especially if you're in a luxury and exotic niche, the cars literally do the marketing for you. Then of course, there's Turo Facebook groups, Reddit groups, things like that. You have to engage a lot and stay active, but you're building a presence and people will start to see your name on repeat and they're gonna get curious about you and your business. The final one, and this one actually has a huge impact, is word of mouth. I can't tell you how many of my customers came from other happy customers that came from other happy customers and so on and so forth. You would be surprised how many calls I would get that just followed a long line of this person referred me, this person referred me, this person referred me. And on top of that, your repeat customers, which if you provide a good experience, I had customers that would literally spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year on my business. Then you can entertain some paid advertising. I don't recommend doing this until you have proof of concept with organic marketing. I would start with Google Ads because again, it's not pattern interrupt driven. It's driven by what people are searching for. So if someone's searching on Google, putting a Google ad in, it's just gonna bump you at the top a little bit without having to do extra SEO. So typically ad budgets on Google are gonna outperform Facebook, Instagram, and those type of paid advertisements. Of course, you can do meta ads, Facebook and Instagram, but there's a very, very steep learning curve when it comes to these types of ads. So if you are doing meta ads, test them very small, $20 to $30 a day, and kill what's not working immediately and repeat what is working. The next thing is gonna be utilizing influencers, which is another form of paid advertising. I would shoot for small local micro influencers who have a lot of control within your niche. So if you're in the car rental space, it's obviously gonna be car rentals. Just because someone has a lot of followers doesn't mean that they're gonna bring you a lot of business. For example, I've done collaborations with people like FaZe Rug, who has 30 million YouTube subscribers, has, 7 or 8 million on Instagram, and it literally didn't bring us any leads. The only thing it did for us is build credibility, because we were able to post it on our Instagram, pin the video, and they were like, oh, this guy's collaborating with FaZe Rug, they must be legit. That's the only thing it did for us. We've actually gotten a lot more traffic from micro influencers that have maybe 30 or 40,000 followers. Yelp ads are complete trash. I spent $2,000 on Yelp, didn't get a single phone call. And one of the best tools that you can use for marketing, which I used a lot and it's very, very, very cheap, is email marketing and creating an email list. Blast your email list every time you get new inventory. Emails alone can generate 5 figures a month easy from existing customers. Now, what do you do when you start getting a lot of business and a lot of cars? You got to figure out your operations and your scaling. And this is where businesses either die or they compound aggressively. What scaling actually means is adding revenue faster than you're adding liabilities and expenses. So just because someone went from $200,000 to $500,000 in a year doesn't mean they actually scaled if they're not taking home more profit or able to reinvest more profit into their business. More cars does not equal scaling if your bottom line is shrinking. The first thing, this is non-negotiable, is your check-in and your checkout process. When it comes to Turo, I do 1 to 200 photos for every single trip. Think of it this way, when it comes to a Turo claim for any damages, if there is no before photo, it doesn't exist. You can have a whole door get ripped off. If you don't have a photo of the door there beforehand, Turo will say the door wasn't there, it didn't exist, we're not paying the claim. When you're doing private rentals, I just do a high definition video, walk around 2 or 3 minutes, getting every angle of the car. If it's an exotic or a sports car, I even go underneath the front lip, getting every single area. Typically, when it comes to private rental insurance claims, they are not as diligent about asking for before documentation, but it can happen. So just make sure you're prepared. And it's especially useful when you're doing smaller claims, meaning non-insurance claims even, and you're having to bill your customer directly for $1,000 of damage. They may dispute it, but if you have the before video that's timestamped, you can show them the evidence that they actually did that damage. Make sure in that documentation process, you're always getting a photo of the miles and the fuel, and make sure that those miles are embedded with a timestamp. I've had customers drive 300 miles in one day, and they say there's no way that I drove 300 miles in a day. I show them the timestamp before, I show them the timestamp after, and there's literally nothing to argue after that. If you're doing exotic cars, make sure you're giving the customer an on-the-ground tutorial, showing them how the car actually works. If it's low, show them how to get around that so they don't bottom out. Show them the front end lift, show them how to start the car, put it in drive, and all the quirks that come with exotic vehicles. And when it comes to post-trip, meaning when the car is returned, that you also do a full documentation process, gas, miles, walk around videos, photos, all of that. This is more so important because you could do a visual walk around, but if you miss damage and you don't catch it for another 3 rentals, you have the timestamps to prove that that damage happened when it did. If you don't have that proof, you're out of luck. Now, when do you hire and what do you hire for when it comes to your car rental business? Here are some signs that you need help. You're washing, you're delivering, you're booking the rentals, you're checking in the rentals, you're handling damage claims, all client communication, across multiple platforms. I was doing this when we had 30 cars in the fleet, just me and my business partner. And I'll tell you what, we hired much too late. By the time we got to 60 cars, we did not have the right systems in place to train our employees properly. And that is why the business essentially fell apart and we almost had to rebuild it in a sense. Your first hire, in my recommendation, should always be someone that washes the cars, does check-ins and checkouts, and deliveries. Bonus, if you can have a detailing company or an independent detailer wash your cars instead, that's going to be a lot less liability and headache for you. I would recommend doing that. If you can't find that, hire that position out. After that, you need to hire virtual assistants. That is going to be for booking management, client communications, and calendar coordination. The golden rule when it comes to getting employees in your business is hire slow and fire fast. When it comes to firing, give them 3 chances for small mistakes. If they make one major mistake, fire them on the spot, no questions. I have personally had employees stealing from the business, and I've also had employees essentially stealing cars, meaning they're driving them when they're not supposed to be, taking out a Lamborghini Huracan on a joyride after business hours. So make sure that you're vetting them properly. You also need back-end systems that keep you alive. Track every single expense that goes in and out. Something as small as an air freshener, I don't care. Make sure it's tracked in a spreadsheet somewhere. But literally everything, gas, mileage, maintenance, labor, fixed costs, variable costs. Make sure you write every single cost down. I don't care if you're buying a microfiber for $2, write it down. Make sure you have hardwired GPS trackers. Make sure you have accurate maintenance logs with SKUs and part numbers if it was not done at a certified dealer. Because for example, if you have a warranty on a vehicle and something happens, you need this information. I had a Mercedes GLB 250 where the engine literally blew and I got it done at an independent shop. Because they had record of the SKU and part numbers that they used for the most previous services was the only reason I was able to get the claim covered. If they did not have this or if they were not an ASE certified technician, that warranty claim would have been denied and it would have cost me more than the car was worth. Make sure you lock down your standard operating procedures before you start to add more cars to your fleet, because if you're amplifying a broken system, it just breaks faster. And this should be your fleet scaling strategy, which is using consignment to scale first and using brokers to feed overflow, testing new markets with loss leaders like the C8 example that I gave you, and targeting investors from your existing customer base. Remember, especially when it comes to exotic car rentals, people that rent exotic cars have a lot of capital usually, and retention is going to be your profit multiplier when it comes to this business. Just remember, it's always more expensive to get and satisfy a new customer than it is to get and satisfy an existing customer. When we were at our peak doing $150,000 a month, about a third to half of our business was returning customers. And that starts to compound really fast. For example, I had one client, they started by renting a G-Wagon with us for 2 days. Then they rented the Aston Martin, I think it was for about a week. Eventually they got the Ferrari California T for like a week. All of a sudden, they got the Lamborghini Urus for a month, the Huracan Evo Spider for a month. They got the Ferrari California T again for a month, McLaren GT for a month. Before you know it, they brought us so much money. That client spent a fortune, and that is not the only client that did that with us. Make sure you're giving white glove service. Make sure you own up to mistakes, make it right for the customer. Make sure that you're not nickel and diming repeat customers. Bring the car detailed to them every single time. Give return customer incentives. For this particular client, I would give him all free drop-offs even though he was like 30 miles away. And just make sure you're taking accountability for your business, for your mistakes, even if they're not your fault. If they're the car's fault or the employee's fault, just make the situation right. These are the mistakes you need to avoid when it comes to the car rental business. And I have made most, if not all, of these mistakes myself. Don't buy cars based on what you want. Buy them based on what the market needs. No LLC or commingling funds, skipping insurance verifications, relying entirely on Turo, not taking deposits on a major credit card, scaling cars before locking in standard operating procedures, letting another company handle all client communication when you're brokering vehicles, no documentation pre or post trip, cheap OBD only trackers without hardwired trackers, ignoring maintenance documentation, running paid ads for your Turo account, not your private car rental business, hiring fast because you're overwhelmed instead of hiring smart, and not building your email list from day one. Now, I know we covered a lot here. If you just take a couple of things that you learned from this video and you apply them over the next 30 days, I guarantee you will be able to improve your current car rental business, or you may even be able to start your own car rental business from scratch. I made multiple 6 figures in mistakes so that you don't have to. Everything you need is in this video. You can take all of it and go implement it yourself. Now, if you want to skip the years, the pain, the blood, the sweat, and the tears, and you just want to skip the trials and error, click the first link in the description below and you can book a call with me directly one-on-one where we will map out your specific market, your starter vehicles, pricing structure, and your first 60-day plan. I only take a limited number of these one-on-one strategy calls, and I keep my student circle small because I truly do work with everyone one-on-one. This is a one-on-one mentorship. This is not some buy it and forget it kind of course. You work with me directly through the whole process. Hey, and if you're not ready yet, that's completely fine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, drop me a comment, and I will see you in the next video.